What's up, preachers? Here's some good news. You can get rid of that annoying thing that you do when you're preaching that drives everybody in your audience crazy, and I'm going to help you do that today. What's up, everybody? My name's Matt. I'm the pastor of Gospel Fellowship PCA. We're a Reformed church just north of Pittsburgh. If you're looking for a church that's Bible-believing, Reformed, loves Jesus, on a mission to share the good news of the gospel with the world, you found one, come visit us, Gospel Fellowship PCA. All right. So this is mostly for the preachers, but this video will also be applicable to anyone else who does any kind of regular teaching, whether it's Sunday school or whether it's teaching in, hey, maybe a public school setting. Perhaps you even give presentations for work. Maybe you're in sales. I don't know what you do. But chances are, if you're in any kind of public speaking role, and obviously I have preachers primarily in mind here, there's a good chance that you have some annoying tick or habits or repetition that drives your audience absolutely bonkers. And they know it, and everybody knows it, except for you may be the one guy that doesn't know it. So what kind of ticks am I talking about? Well, let me give you a couple examples here. The first and most obvious tick that many people have is they're giving a sermon and they say or after every single sentence. Many people aren't even aware that they do it, but trust me, everybody in the audience knows that you do it. Other people have some other weird ones too. I knew a guy one time who was a powerful speaker, but he would constantly scratch his head every other minute. He couldn't give a talk for more than a point or two before he was scratching his head. It was like, what is going on? You have some sort of a skin condition up there? I don't know what it was. I think it was just a nervous habit. And other people do things, adjust their glasses constantly, adjust their microphone constantly. But a lot of them are just kind of those verbal tics of the ums and the ahs. Those are the most common habits that we want to eliminate. And so I want to suggest in this very short video here that this is something you can improve on. And all preachers and teachers, public speakers should want to improve on these nervous tics in some way. I mean, obviously you want to get better at what you do, right? Of course you do. You want to serve to the glory of God. And of course, on one hand, it doesn't really matter, right? Because the content really super matters. What you're saying, what you're preaching, what you're teaching, if it's true and powerful and applicable and edifying to the church, then, you know, no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. But you do want to improve the craft, and especially as a preacher, you're going to want to be able to improve the craft. And so eliminating these things really comes down to 3 steps of awareness. So let me give those to you real quick, and then we'll just go through them. So the first step is being aware that you have a tic or a nervous habit. Second of all is becoming aware when you do your tic or your nervous habit. And then the third is becoming aware before you do the nervous tic or the filler words. That's going to be the key there. So all 3 of those things. First of all, are you aware that you do something? You might not be aware. You might totally be oblivious to the fact that you have a particular habit. I remember when I was first learning how to preach and teach, we had to do something that was absolutely mortifying in the preaching class. We had to film a sermon. And this was terrible because it's so much easier to preach or to give a message before a live audience. And that was okay. We're allowed to do it in front of a live audience, but we had to film it and we had to watch it in front of our other students. And that was absolutely miserable because the first thing that we all realized, a bunch of college students, Bible majors, is that we all had some sort of a nervous tic or habit. Most of them were those little verbal things, but other people did some physical things too. One thing that people do all the time is they pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now, it's okay to pace a little bit, but even your pacing should be purposeful and intentional. But when you watch yourself on film, you're going to see yourself doing certain things that you had no idea that you were doing. Everybody else knows, but you didn't know. And the only way you can work on it is, hey, first of all, realizing that you have this particular issue. Second thing that you want to do is to become aware when you are doing it. Perhaps there's particular reasons why you do what you do. I knew a friend who was a preacher, excellent preacher, but he had a little tic, and what he did was after every main point, he would look down at his notes, shake his head and go, like that. Super annoying, right? I don't think he knew he was doing it, but every other point, look down, and then he'd go up. Well, if he could realize through watching himself on video or even listening to his messages that he was doing it, then he could become aware of the fact of when he was about to do it. And I could tell you when he was going to do it. He always did it when he was about to finish up one main point and then go on to the next. It was kind of a transition little habit that he had when he was looking down at his notes to find out what the next idea is going to be. And so, like many people do, he would just kind of fill that nervous tension of that awkward pause with a noise like that, super annoying. But then he could become aware of when he's doing it, and when you're aware of when you're doing it, then you can move on to the next step, which is to avoid it before it happens. Now, I had one too a while back, and I was able to eliminate it mostly from my preaching and teaching, and I'll tell you what it was. I was doing this thing where I would be giving a point, I'd be talking to the congregation, and then I would ask a question. I'd say, right, right, something, 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 right. And what I was trying to do in that moment was I was trying to solicit some sort of audience feedback, because every preacher or teacher is going to feel better when they're getting some kind of response, like either nodding their heads or maybe some amens. Not too much clapping in Presbyterian tradition, but you want a little bit of audience feedback, even if it's nonverbal. And so I would do this thing where I'd say, right, this, right. And I'd be asking for the audience to kind of chime in, but I was doing it all the time and I didn't realize it until I started to realize it. And so then the last thing, if you want to really eliminate these things, is to become aware before you do it. And this is where the conscious brain, as you're preaching, has to kind of open up that second channel. And I've talked about this reality before. When you're preaching, you actually have two streams of consciousness that are taking place at the same time, believe it or not. The one stream of consciousness is you're just trying to focus on your content. What verse is next? What's my illustration? What's my main point? How should I phrase this delicate theological construct? But then the other stream of consciousness is the awareness of self. Where are my feet on the platform? Why do I hear that baby crying out in the distance? Boy, it's hot in here. The temperature seems hot. Wish I could roll up my sleeves. I feel like there's maybe a drip of sweat on my forehead, and you're aware of all of these other things. And to really be in the moment when you're preaching is to meld those two streams of consciousness together into one, so that you're totally in sync with yourself. And only when you come to that level of comfort can you be fully aware of when you're about to do your tick and then move on to eliminating it even before it happens. And so those are the three steps again: aware that you're doing it, aware when you typically do it, and then try to become aware before you do it so that you can consciously work on eliminating that habit. If you do even one tick a year, eliminating them from your speech or your presentation style, your audience will be greatly pleased and will be far less likely to be distracted by what you're doing, and instead focus more on what you're saying, and you'll become a preacher or a teacher with a little bit more gravity and weight, a little bit better ability to compel and to persuade your audience, which is, of course, the art of rhetoric or preaching. Well, thank you so much for checking into this YouTube channel. Hope you found that helpful. If you're not a pastor or preacher, maybe pass it on to somebody who is, but don't tease them about their tick or their habit, because trust me, it's pretty hard to be up there being the one delivering a cogent, coherent, and concise message. It is easier said than done. Love you lots. Thanks for checking in. Talk to you later.